This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Got some big important updates to share with you. The Russian ruble is crashing and new sanctions are hurting the Russian economy. I'll let you know the ripple effect and how it's going to affect people in the United States. Also, the latest stimulus articles like this. Stimulus check update. Plan would resume $300 monthly payments, and new $1,500 and $750 stimulus checks released tomorrow in this state, as well as you could get $40,000 student loan debt wiped out if you buy a first-time home in this state, and I'll give you some other important updates as well. Hope you're having a more than mundane Monday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So Social Security retirees are coping with the biggest financial challenge in 40 years. With inflation surging, rising prices could hit seniors especially hard, and retirees need to be aware of the impact of inflation to make smart financial choices. So right now, inflation is up to 7.5%, at least that was the January reading of 2022, and it's said to go up to 10% due to the Russian-Ukraine conflict, which I'll give you more details of the financial repercussions later on in the video. But yeah, this article is just going over how it's a really hard time, not just for retirees on Social Security, but everybody on fixed income, SSI, SSDI, all those groups. It's really hard right now. In terms of stimulus check updates, plan would resume $300 monthly payments. So this is coming from Senator Mitt Romney, who introduced the Family Security Act that would send payments of $350 per month to eligible families with children ages 0 to 5 and $250 per month to families ages 6 to 17. Very similar to the child tax credit with some modifications on it. Saying this, Mitt Romney said, American families are facing greater financial strain worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, and marriage and birth rates are at an all-time low. On top of that, we have not comprehensively reformed our family support system in nearly 3 decades, and our changing economy has left millions of families behind. So with his plan, a married couple with two kids age 4 and 9 making $38,000 a year would get $7,041 as a one lump sum. Not necessarily as a monthly sum, but that's just how it would be for 1 month. It could be spread out monthly. And it's just basically talking about under his plan, it would give out $200 for single filers and make it less than $400,000 and $50 for every $1,000 above that threshold. So yeah, that is still not moving forward. At this point, it's just a proposal. Then we have this new $1,500 and $750 stimulus checks released tomorrow in this state. You have 18 days to claim, so check if you qualify. So this was written out yesterday, but the most recent one here, new stimulus checks worth $15 million being sent out today. Find out if you're eligible. So this is going on in Alabama. So $15 million are being sent out to 10,000 workers in Alabama, and this is going to provide full-time employees a $1,500 check, while part-time employees will get a $750 check. So the round of checks will begin going February 28th through March 11th. So that's when you could see checks there in Alabama. And then in Mississippi, a $1,000 check. Mississippi, flush with cash, could send one instead of cutting taxes. So there could be a potential $1,000 stimulus check or tax rebate check in Mississippi. So what it's saying here is, here in Mississippi, the legislature could provide all people currently earning a paycheck a one-time rebate of $1,000 and not impact the ability moving forward to continue services at current levels. So if you live in Mississippi, there could be a $1,000 check if you received any type of payments or paycheck throughout 2021. Then we have here, you could get $40,000 student loan debt wiped if you buy a first-time home in this state. So lawmakers in Maine are hoping to attract younger people to the state by forgiving $40,000 in student debt for first-time home buyers. This is huge right here. So basically, they're trying to get sort of like Vermont is giving a $7,500 grant or check for anyone who moves to Vermont. Same thing with Maine, but instead they're going to wipe out $40,000 in student loan debt. So basically, participants must have a debt balance of $5,000 to $40,000 and will have to work in Maine while paying off their debt in full at time of closing on the home. So Yeah, if you have 40,000, I don't think it says anything about age requirement. So yeah, that could be really big right there. And then in terms of what's going on in Russia, so the Russian foreign minister cancels trip to Geneva. There's supposed to be talks going on in Belarus between the Ukrainian delegation, Russian delegation. At this point, at the time of filming the video, Ukraine is still putting up a tough fight, and it looks like Russian forces are starting to slow down or recede. There is sort of a delay right now just because of talks actually going on as I'm filming the video right now. But in terms of how the West is treating this, instead of physical force, there's financial force. So Russia faces financial meltdown as sanctions slam its economy. So the ruble has, I think, crashed, maybe 30% of its value gone. It's almost like having 10 US dollars in the bank and now it's only worth $7. That's kind of what's going on in Russia with the ruble. Take a look at this video clip right here. Not necessarily talking about the physical damage, but the financial damage and how it could affect the rest of the world and the US.
So more details on the economic moves taken over the weekend against Russia. The U.S., Canada, and European allies are cutting off key Russian banks from the SWIFT global banking system. The move is seen as the harshest financial sanction imposed so far on Russia. SWIFT is a secure messaging system that links thousands of financial institutions in more than 200 countries. It's not a traditional bank and does not transfer funds. Instead, it alerts banks about transactions that are about to happen. Removing Russia's largest banks from SWIFT cuts them off from global institutions and makes it much more difficult to process transactions for them. It means Russia can't get paid as quickly for their goods, such as oil and gas, which make up more than 40% of the country's revenue. When Iran was kicked out of SWIFT back in 2012, it lost half of its oil export revenues, as an example, and 30% of its foreign trade. The U.S. and its allies are also imposing restrictions on international reserves for Russia's central bank. Russia has more than $600 billion in foreign reserves. These are new measures and are aimed at preventing Putin from using that money to fund the invasion and to keep Russia's central bank from offsetting the falling ruble. Meanwhile, the Swiss president said yesterday it was, quote, very probable that neutral Switzerland would follow the EU's lead in sanctioning Russia and freezing Russian assets.
So, Steve Ratner, we spoke earlier this morning to Keir Simmons on the streets of Moscow. He talked about a near panic that's setting in with middle-class Russians, people who are being notified by Western banks that they're going to have to close down their bank accounts. People fretful, obviously, that the stock market's been shut down. Interest rates have doubled to 20%. The ruble has collapsed. Now we have even the Swiss talking about coming in and doing something they do not regularly do. Talk about what the impact of all of this is going to be on the Russian economy, on Russian oligarchs close to Vladimir Putin, and those middle-class Russians who are fearing the worst right now.
Yes, Joe, this is certainly the most robust package of financial sanctions that I can remember being imposed. I think it goes far beyond what most people, including the Russians especially, expected to happen. I'll come back to that in a second. But the impact on Russia and its economy is very much along the lines of what you said. We've seen these reports of people lined up at ATMs. We see hoarding going on. We see the Russian stock market having fallen by over 40% and now being shut. We see the ruble collapsing. These are all signs of a country that is in great distress. Where it ends for the Russian people and the Russian economy, of course, is too soon to know. But I think you can probably expect, based on past efforts, past sanctions efforts that we've done, a very steep recession and all sorts of problems. The most significant thing we've done, actually, which Mika referred to in her lead-in, is essentially blocking the $650 billion of foreign exchange. As we talked about on the show a couple of weeks ago, Putin has spent the last several years trying to sanction-proof his economy, if you will. He's cut his debt ratio to GDP, and he's built up the third largest pile of foreign exchange reserves in the world, $650 billion, that he expected to be able to use to continue to buy things using foreign currency if there was some kind of set of sanctions or embargoes placed on him. And now we've effectively stopped him from doing that. And so we've, in a sense, isolated the Russian economy and put it into a kind of free fall that I think you're going to see very, very severe economic consequences for the average Russian. And of course, by sanctioning the oligarchs, you're going to see very significant consequences for them. And when you put all that together, it should put enormous pressure on Vladimir Putin.
Steve, I had a question for you. What about the boomerang effect here? What about the implications of this for European economies and for the United States? And even though we're causing Russia real pain, might also some of it blow back against ourselves?
Sure, Richard. That's a good question, and it's an important point. And I think there's a couple pieces to it. First, again, the history of these kinds of massive sanctions have had worldwide impacts. You cut demand, you put the world in a set of turmoil, you can't buy what you wanted to buy, and so forth. But it's particularly important here. The energy thing here is very different. And what we have not yet done is really impose severe trade sanctions. We've imposed heavy financial sanctions, but we've not been willing to go after the oil and gas because Europe gets over 40% of its gas from Russia. Russia is still one of the 3 largest oil producers in the world. And so it would be destructive, both especially to Europe, but also to the U.S., to put those kinds of sanctions in place. And so we've held back on that to try to minimize the effect on the world. But we shouldn't kid ourselves. There's going to be a cost here to all of us. Oil is already over $100 a barrel. Europeans are paying 5 or 8 times as much for natural gas as Americans are paying for it. And yes, there are there are going to be costs to what we're doing.
Pretty crazy with what's going on. Looks like Putin's erratic behavior might be put to a stop, especially if he's getting pressure from within his own country due to the financial obstacles that are going on there. Do you think that'll be enough to cause an end to this conflict, to the invasion? Let me know your thoughts on all that down in the comments below. And that is all the news that I have for you today to hopefully brighten your day a bit. Here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. I want to tell you something that you should always do. Sometimes just sit on your bed or like sit at a table on like your counter and like sit down and take like 10 breaths. Breathe in and breathe out because you need yourself to feel relaxed. And that's all I wanted to tell you for today. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your support. So yesterday was a rainy day and it was just me and Kalea for the day. So my 3-year-old, we just kind of snuggled up, got under the blanket and relaxed on the couch for a while, which was pretty cool because it just rained all day pretty much by me in Myrtle Beach. Hopefully everything is good by you. And if you want to check out my latest video, my other channel, you could click up here and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.